Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So, we've got a brand new Helldivers 2 update to talk about, and this one's honestly a pretty exciting one. It's update 4.1.0, also known as Into the Unjust. It's one of those patches that doesn't necessarily look huge at first glance, but the more time you spend in game, the more you realize just how much it actually changes. There are balance tweaks, weapon buffs, stratagem adjustments, and even some long requested fixes that make the game feel smoother and more consistent overall. It's one of those updates that kind of reshapes how the game feels without completely rewriting the playbook, which is exactly the kind of balance most of us want at this point. All right, so let's start with the most obvious thing that stands out when you log in after this patch: weapons. Arrowhead finally went in and gave a bunch of guns the love they've needed for a while. I mean, let's be real. Up until now, a lot of assault rifles in particular were feeling kind of weak. You'd use them because they're reliable, sure, but they never really had that punch you'd hope for, especially when you're up against tougher enemies. That's changing now. The AR-23 line, the classic Liberator, the carbine variant, the penetrator, and the concussive version all got damage buffs across the board. You'll notice it right away. They hit harder, they feel more stable, and the durable damage, which affects how they perform against armored enemies, is noticeably better. You can actually melt through weaker armor without having to unload a full mag, and that alone makes a massive difference in those mid-tier encounters. And speaking of weapons feeling better, SMGs and pistols also got a major tune-up. These have always been in a weird spot: fast, lightweight, but kind of underwhelming unless you were up close and personal. Arrowhead seems to have really leaned into that identity now. They boosted the close range damage, so when you're within that sweet spot, you can absolutely shred smaller enemies, but they also made the fall off stronger, so you're encouraged to use them how they're intended. It's a really nice bit of tuning because it makes those guns feel like actual choices again instead of the thing you bring when your primary runs out of ammo. Now, one thing a ton of players are happy about, and I mean genuinely celebrating, is the buff to throwables. If you love your grenades, this is your moment. The G6 frag now gives you one extra grenade. The G7 pineapple got both a stronger inner damage radius and improved fragment spread, and the G3 smoke also got an extra use, which makes it way more practical for tactical play. But the biggest winner here is definitely the TED 63 Dynamite. It's a bit of a rework, honestly. They gave it a huge damage boost. It's sitting at 1000 damage now, and it also has heavy armor penetration. That makes it an absolute monster for destroying objectives or taking out those chunky targets like bunkers or armored bugs. The catch is you get fewer of them, but honestly, that trade-off is fair because the raw power is incredible now. If you've been ignoring Dynamite before, this is the update that'll make you rethink that. Now, let's talk stratagems, because Arrowhead made a bunch of meaningful tweaks here too. The flamethrower got a bigger fuel tank and more spare ammo, which immediately makes it more viable in longer bug missions. The autocannon got a damage bump, which means it's better at shredding mid-tier armor, perfect for dealing with automatons or heavier bugs. The anti-material rifle, or AMR, also got a buff to its durable damage, plus extra magazines, which is something people have been asking for since launch. And the orbital rail cannon, one of those "oh crap" buttons we all love, now has a faster cooldown. It's down from 210 seconds to 180. That might not sound like a lot, but in an intense mission, shaving off half a minute means you can use it more aggressively without worrying about saving it for the perfect moment. The M105 Stalwart also got some love with a straight damage increase, and the GL52D Escalator, that one got a serious damage jump. It's suddenly worth revisiting if you've shelved it recently. Enemy-wise, the developers clearly took player feedback to heart. The Terminids, especially the Rupture strain, have been giving people nightmares lately, and not in the fun kind of way. They were just overwhelming at times, hopping out of the ground nonstop, one-shotting turrets, and turning defensive missions into chaos. Thankfully, that's toned down now. Warriors need to surface more often before attacking, which means fewer underground ambushes. Their underground speed has been slowed, and their attacks are less likely to destroy your defenses without warning. On top of that, the Dragon Roach enemies, those flying pests that always seem to show up right when things are going wrong, have had their spawn rates reduced, especially on higher difficulties. And if you take out their wings, they're done. No more flying around like invincible nuisances. The Automaton faction also got some interesting changes. Basic troopers won't instantly trigger alarms anymore, which makes stealth or low-profile approaches feel way smoother. The War Striders now fire fewer grenades, and their weak points have been adjusted to make them a bit more readable. You'll notice damage stacking faster when you target their eyes and vents. And while they're still dangerous, they feel more fair to fight now. Some explosion physics were also tweaked to reduce that weird ragdoll chain reaction, where one blast sends you or your squad mates flying halfway across the map. It's little touches like that that make combat feel more consistent overall. As for the Illuminate, they got some tuning as well. The Flesh Mob and Elevated Overseer health values were adjusted, which means fights against them are less of a slog, and the Leviathans, those massive nightmare creatures, are now mostly confined to city missions. That's a relief because they were showing up in areas that didn't really make sense before. Now let's move on to something that's not as flashy, but still super important: performance and quality of life improvements. This patch included over 200 fixes, and a lot of them target the little annoyances that build up over time. For example, the hover pack now properly keeps your aim down sights when toggling it. Before, it would cancel your ADS and make it clunky to use in the middle of a fight. That's fixed. The spear can now properly lock onto Automaton AA turrets, which is great news for players who love using that stratagem for precision takedowns. Reload desyncs were fixed too, so your animations now actually match your ammo count instead of showing your gun reloading when it wasn't. Crash fixes are another huge part of this patch. The devs tackled several crash cases, especially related to hot joining, Eagle 1 sequences, and menu transitions. You'll notice that the game just feels more stable now. There's less stutter when you drop into Hive worlds, fewer random disconnects, and overall smoother frame pacing. They even optimized some of the snow and environmental effects, so performance on maps like frozen biomes is noticeably better. And that brings us to visuals and world feel. Hive worlds have been reworked slightly in terms of lighting and performance optimization, and explosions feel a bit cleaner now. You can tell the devs have been working hard to keep the visual fidelity high while also improving stability. It's subtle, but if you've spent hundreds of hours in the game like a lot of us have, you can feel the difference almost instantly. Now, one thing that's easy to overlook, but actually pretty significant, is the weapon identity pass. This isn't just about damage numbers, it's about how each gun feels to use. The assault rifles feel like reliable, jack-of-all-trades weapons again. The SMGs are powerful, close-range swarm clearers. Pistols actually feel like proper backup tools. The devs clearly wanted to make sure every weapon has a reason to exist, rather than being a worse version of something else. That's the kind of balance philosophy that keeps the game fresh long-term, especially when you've got so many different playstyles in the community. If you're wondering about builds after this patch, this update actually opens up a lot of flexibility. For automaton missions, an AR-23 paired with a P113 Verdict pistol feels incredible. Throw in an autocannon for your heavy stratagem, a rail cannon for emergencies, and maybe a shield generator or supply pack depending on your playstyle, and you've got a setup that handles just about everything. The Verdict and autocannon buffs together make mid-armor enemies so much easier to handle. For Terminid missions, the SG-8S Slugger or the Tenderizer shotguns feel amazing right now, especially paired with the newly buffed TED-63 Dynamite and the Flamethrower. That combo just annihilates nests and bile targets. Toss in an Eagle Cluster and a Mortar Sentry, and you've got a bug-clearing powerhouse. And if you're someone who loves quick objective runs, try running the Liberator Concussive with either the G7 Pineapple or G6 Frag Grenades, plus the GL52 Deescalator and the Stalwart. The buffs to grenades and the GL52 mean you can clear out objectives faster than before, which makes it perfect for those high-intensity mission chains where efficiency matters. Performance-wise, everything's smoother, especially in chaotic moments. The devs worked on reducing physics bottlenecks, improving particle effects, and cleaning up how explosions are rendered.